The stars twinkled peacefully in the void of space, but peace was a lie in this corner of the galaxy. Every species knew it. Every world that could support life lived in fear of the day the Zalthori would come. Captain Elaine Summers stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Force ship Pathfinder, staring at the long-range scanner results with a frown. Something wasn't right about the energy signature they had picked up near Proxima Centauri b, humanity's first colony outside the solar system. "Mason, run that scan again," she ordered her science officer. Lieutenant Sam Mason nodded, his fingers moving quickly across the console. "Same result, Captain. It's unlike anything in our database." Elaine brushed a strand of blonde hair from her face. Humanity had only been traveling between stars for 30 years. There was still so much they didn't know about what waited in the darkness beyond Earth. But the colony's distress call had been clear. Something strange had appeared at the edge of their system. "How long until we reach the anomaly?" 2 hours. "At current speed, Captain," replied the helmsman, Officer Diane Powell. Elaine nodded. "Maintain course, and let's go to yellow alert just to be safe." As the alert lights changed color around the bridge, Communications Officer Jeff Harris turned in his seat. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Proxima colony. Governor?" "Clark says they've lost contact with their outer sensor buoys." A chill ran down Elaine's spine. Sensor buoys didn't just stop working for no reason. "Tell the governor we're investigating, and have the crew prepare for potential combat situations." The 2 hours passed in tense silence. When they finally dropped out of FTL at the coordinates, what they saw made the entire bridge crew gasp. Floating in space was a ship unlike any they had ever seen. It was shaped like a jagged black crystal, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Parts of it seemed damaged, with strange energy leaking from a tear in its side. "Is that?" Mason whispered, his face pale. Elaine nodded slowly. Every spacefaring species knew the description of Zalthori ships, even if humans had never encountered one before. The crystalline vessels of the ancient race that had terrorized the galaxy for thousands of years. "It appears to be disabled," Mason said, checking his readings. "No power signatures except for some kind of emergency system." Elaine made a quick decision. "Harris, send a message to Earth Command. We found what appears to be a damaged Zalthori scout ship. Request instructions." She turned to her first officer. "Commander Ryan, prepare a boarding party. Full environmental, suits and weapons." Commander Jack Ryan looked surprised. "Captain, with all due respect, the Zalthori—" "I know the stories," Elaine cut him off. "But we've never had a chance to examine their technology before. No one has. This could be the opportunity of a lifetime." Earth Command's response came an hour later, during which time they had carefully scanned every inch of the alien vessel. The orders were clear: investigate, but proceed with extreme caution. Any knowledge about Zalthori technology could be vital for Earth's defense. The boarding party consisted of Commander Ryan, Lieutenant Mason, Security Chief Greg Evans, and Dr. Kate Monroe from Xenobiology. Elaine watched from the bridge as their shuttle approached the damaged alien ship. "Shuttle has docked with the Zalthori vessel," Harris reported. "Team is preparing to enter." Through the team's video feeds, Elaine watched as they cut their way into the dark ship. The interior was even stranger than the outside. Corridors that seemed to shift and change direction. Surfaces that glowed with faint blue light. "The air is breathable," came Dr. Monroe's voice through the comm, "but I wouldn't recommend removing our helmets." "Agreed," said Commander Ryan. "Let's push forward to what looks like the main control room." As they moved deeper into the ship, Elaine felt her unease growing. The Zalthori were known throughout the galaxy as merciless conquerors who destroyed entire civilizations. Humanity had been lucky to avoid their attention so far, being relatively new to interstellar travel. "Captain," Mason's excited voice broke through her thoughts. "We've found something. Someone." The video feed showed what looked like a control center. In the middle was a crystalline formation that pulsed with inner light. It was roughly humanoid, in shape, but made entirely of what appeared to be black crystal with veins of purple energy running through it. "Is that Zalthori?" Elaine asked, leaning forward in her chair. I believe so, Dr. Monroe replied. And it appears to be alive but injured or in some kind of stasis. Elaine made another quick decision. Bring it back to the ship. Maximum security protocols. The next 12 hours were a blur of activity. The crystalline being was placed in a reinforced containment chamber in the science lab. Dr. Monroe and her team worked non-stop trying to understand its biology, if you could call it that. Meanwhile, engineers studied the data collected from the alien ship. When Elaine finally received a full report, she immediately called Earth Command. Admiral William Porter's face appeared on the main screen, his expression grave. Captain Summers, your discovery is unprecedented. No one has ever captured a living Zalthori before. The creature appears to be in some kind of dormant state, Elaine explained. Dr. Monroe believes it's healing itself. The Galactic Concordat has been notified of your discovery, Admiral Porter said. They're sending representatives immediately. This is beyond just Earth now, Captain. Every spacefaring race has suffered at the hands of the Zalthori. Sir, there's something else, Elaine added. Our engineers have made some progress understanding their technology. The quantum principles involved are unusual, but not completely beyond our comprehension. The Admiral raised an eyebrow. That's surprising. The Concordat races have been studying salvaged Zalthori tech for centuries with minimal progress. It seems our approach to quantum computing gives us a unique perspective, Elaine explained. We think differently than the other races. Before the Admiral could respond, alarms blared across the bridge. Elaine turned to see Mason rushing to his station. Captain, the Zalthori is awake. On the security feed, the crystalline being was now standing in its cell, its form pulsing with bright purple energy. Dr. Monroe stood before it, talking slowly while holding up various objects. What is she doing? Admiral Porter demanded. Attempting communication, Elaine replied, equally surprised. Sir, I need to go. We'll update you soon. She cut the transmission and rushed toward the science lab. By the time she arrived, something impossible was happening. The Zalthori had formed what looked like a mouth in its crystalline structure and was producing sounds. It's trying to mimic our speech patterns, Dr. Monroe explained, her eyes wide with excitement. It's learning our language by watching us. I've never seen anything adapt so quickly. The creature turned its faceless head toward Elaine. The purple light within it pulsed in rhythm with its words as it spoke in a deep, resonant voice. You, not like others. You, not fear. Why? Elaine stepped forward, ignoring the security officer who tried to hold her back. We want to understand, we want peace. The crystalline being seemed to consider this for a long moment before responding. Peace. Unknown concept to Zalthori. But interesting. You, humans, are interesting. For the first time in recorded history, a member of the most feared species in the galaxy was engaging in dialogue rather than destruction, and somehow humanity had been the one to make it happen. As Elaine looked into the pulsing heart of the ancient being, she knew that everything was about to change. The galaxy would never be the same again. Word spread quickly about the captured Zalthori. Within days, ships from the Galactic Concordat arrived at the human colony. 17 different alien species sent their best diplomats and scientists. None of them could believe that humans had not only captured a Zalthori, but were actually communicating with it. Dr. Alan Pierce arrived from Earth on a fast transport ship. As the leading expert in xenolinguistics, he had been studying alien languages for 15 years. When he first saw the crystalline being in its containment cell, he stood silently for several minutes, simply observing. It's beautiful, in a strange way, he finally said to Captain Summers, who had come to greet him. The Zalthori, which the human crew had started calling obsidian, due to its black crystal appearance, turned toward them. The purple energy inside it pulsed as it spoke. This one observes differently than others, Obsidian said, its voice deep and echoing. Alan smiled. I'm here to help us understand each other better. Over the next week, Alan worked tirelessly with Dr. Kate Monroe. The Concordate representatives watched in amazement as the humans made more progress with the Zalthori in days than the combined races had made in centuries. "How are you doing this?" asked Zrel, a tall blue-skinned diplomat from the Pelleran race. "We have tried to communicate with captured Zalthori fragments before. They never responded." Alan looked up from his notes. "We're not just translating words, we're trying to understand how they think." "They don't process reality the way we do," Kate added. "Their minds work on quantum principles. What looks like telepathy to us is actually a different way of experiencing time and space." Commander Jack Ryan led another team that focused on the Zalthori ship. With permission from Earth Command, he brought on board Nathan Rodriguez, a genius in quantum computing. Nathan had helped design Earth's first true quantum computers, which worked differently than those of other species in the galaxy. "Their technology is incredible," Nathan told the captain during a briefing. "It's based on principles we've only started to grasp, but there's something familiar about their approach to quantum manipulation." "Can we learn anything useful from it?" Elaine asked. Nathan nodded eagerly. "I think we can figure out how their weapons work, and maybe, just maybe, how to defend against them." This news caused excitement among the Concordate representatives. The Zalthori's gravitic weapons had destroyed countless worlds. No species had ever found an effective defense. Meanwhile, Alan's sessions with Obsidian grew more revealing. The Zalthori began sharing information that shocked everyone. "The Dominion does not conquer for territory or resources," Obsidian explained one day. "We harvest." "Harvest what?" Alan asked. "Neural patterns, the unique energy produced by sentient minds. It feeds the progenitor." Alan leaned forward. "Who, or what is the progenitor?" Obsidian's purple energy pulsed faster. "The first one. The ancient one. The heart of all Zalthori. We are many, but we are one." This information was immediately shared with all Concordate representatives. A Saurian scientist named Grixton connected it to an old theory. "We always suspected the Zalthori were a hive mind," Grixton said during an emergency meeting. "But this suggests something more complex. It explains why they target worlds with advanced civilizations," added Elaine. "More complex brains would create more valuable neural patterns." Back in the lab, Nathan made another breakthrough with the Zalthori ship's technology. He called Captain Summers and Commander Ryan to show them. "Look at this," he said, pointing to a complex diagram on his screen. "Their weapons use quantum fields to disrupt the bonds between atoms. But the field generator has a very specific frequency pattern." "Meaning what?" Jack asked. Nathan smiled. "Meaning we might be able to create a shield that disrupts their disruption. It wouldn't stop their weapons completely, but it could reduce their effectiveness by maybe 60%. For the first time since the Zalthori had begun their reign of terror thousands of years ago, there was hope of a defense. The next day, representatives from all 17 concordate species gathered in the colony's main meeting hall. Captain Summers and her team presented their findings. The room was silent as Alan explained what they had learned about the progenitor. "Based on what Obsidian has told us, the progenitor is an entity that exists partly in our reality and partly in what they call the between space. It's ancient, possibly millions of years old. It created the first Zalthori and continues to create new ones." "And it feeds on the neural energy of other species?" asked a small, insect-like diplomat. "Yes," Alan confirmed. "The Zalthori harvest this energy and transfer it to the progenitor through their quantum network." Nathan then explained his discovery about their weapons and the potential shield. Murmurs of hope spread through the room. But one question remained. What to do next? Admiral William Porter, who had arrived from Earth 2 days earlier, stood up. "The Zalthori have terrorized this galaxy long enough. For the first time, we have information that could help us fight back. I propose a joint operation." The alien representatives looked uncertain. Zrel, the Pelleran diplomat, spoke up. "What kind of operation?" "No combined fleet has ever successfully engaged the Zalthori." "A limited strike," the Admiral explained. "We've learned from Obsidian that there's a Zalthori outpost in the Rigel system. It's smaller than their main bases but contains important communication equipment. If we could capture or destroy it, we might disrupt their network." The room erupted, in debate. Many species had tried fighting the Zalthori before, always with disastrous results. But the humans' breakthroughs offered new possibilities. Meanwhile, in the lab, Alan continued his conversations with Obsidian. He had started to notice something strange. The Zalthori was asking questions about humans. It seemed curious, almost fascinated. "Your species is young," Obsidian said. "Yet you approach problems differently. You see connections others miss." "Is that unusual among the species you've encountered?" Alan asked. "Yes. Most flee or fight predictably. You adapt. You change your thinking. The progenitor would find you troubling." Alan leaned forward. "Why troubling?" Obsidian's purple energy swirled in what Alan had come to recognize as its version of contemplation. "Unpredictability disrupts the network. New patterns cause discord." A new idea began to form in Alan's mind. If human thinking was somehow disruptive to the Zalthori network, could that be weaponized? He rushed to find Nathan, whose work on quantum computing might hold the key. As they compared notes, an exciting possibility emerged. "If the Zalthori communicate through a quantum network," Nathan said, thinking aloud, "and our patterns are disruptive to them, we might be able to create a kind of quantum virus." "A virus carrying human thought patterns," Alan added. "Something that could spread through their network and cause confusion." By the time they brought this idea to Captain Summers and Admiral Porter, the Concordat representatives had reluctantly agreed to the joint strike mission. When they heard about the potential psychic jamming technology, even more decided to contribute ships and resources. As preparations began for what would be the first ever coordinated attack on a Zalthori installation, Captain Summers visited Obsidian one last time. "Do you understand what's happening?" she asked the crystalline being. "Yes," Obsidian replied. "You fight the Dominion. Is that why you've helped us? Do you want the Dominion to fall?" Obsidian's energy pulsed slowly. "This one has seen something new in humans. Perhaps there is more than harvesting, more than the progenitor's hunger." For the first time in thousands of years, something was changing in the galaxy. And it had started because humans refused to accept that an enemy was unbeatable. The Joint Strike Force gathered at the edge of the Tau Ceti system. It was the largest fleet ever assembled against the Zalthori, 35 ships from the 17 Concordat species, and 12 Earth vessels. Admiral Sofia Valdez stood on the bridge of the flagship Intrepid, studying the tactical display. "I still can't believe we're actually doing this," said her first officer, Commander Paul Martinez. Sophia nodded. The other species had been fighting and losing to the Zalthori for centuries. Humanity had only joined Galactic Society 3 decades ago, yet here they were, leading the charge. "The Earth ships will take point position," she told the assembled captains during the final briefing. "Our vessels have been fitted with Nathan Rodriguez's shield modifications. We'll test the Zalthori defenses first." Some of the alien captains looked doubtful. Grix Tan, the Saurian scientist who had joined the mission, spoke what many were thinking. "Admiral, with respect, Earth is committing 1/3 of its total fleet to this operation. If you fail, your planet will be nearly defenseless." Sophia smiled. "Sometimes you have to risk everything for a chance to change things." The alien representatives exchanged glances. The humans' willingness to take such risks was both admirable and puzzling to them. Back on Proxima Centauri B, Dr. Alan Pierce continued working with Obsidian. The Zalthori had become increasingly cooperative, answering questions about its species' technology and biology. Through these conversations, Alan had developed what he called a quantum disruptor, a device that could potentially interfere with the Zalthori neural network. "We've loaded the disruptor program onto 3 unmanned drones," Alan explained, to Captain Elaine Summers. "If they can get close enough to the Zalthori outpost's main transmitter, they might be able to temporarily jam their communications." "Might?" Elaine asked. Alan shrugged. "We're dealing with technology that's thousands of years ahead of ours. But the theory is sound. Human thought patterns create discord in their network. This device amplifies that effect. The strike force entered the Rigel system under stealth, using an asteroid field for cover. The Zalthori outpost orbited the system's fourth planet, a massive installation that resembled a jagged black crystal, much like their ships, but far larger. "No sign they've detected us yet," reported Lieutenant Greg Hansen from the Intrepid's sensor station. Admiral Valdez gave the order to advance. The 12 Earth ships moved forward, their newly modified shields ready. Behind them, the Concordat vessels waited nervously. They were halfway to the outpost when the Zalthori finally noticed them. 3 crystalline ships emerged from behind the outpost, their black surfaces absorbing nearby light. "Enemy vessels approaching," Greg announced. "They're charging weapons." Sophia took a deep breath. "Maintain course. Let's see if Nathan's shields work." The Zalthori fired first. Beams of purple energy lashed out at the lead Earth ship, the Defender. Everyone on the Intrepid's bridge held their breath as the beams hit. The Defender's shields flared bright blue. Where the beams struck, they dimmed but held. "Shields at 60%, came the report from the Defender. "We're still in the fight." A cheer went up across the fleet. For the first time ever, a ship had survived a direct hit from a Zalthori weapon. "All ships, engage targets," Sophia ordered. "Launch the drones." The battle that followed was fierce. The Earth ships pressed forward, their modified shields allowing them to withstand the Zalthori attacks. The Concordat ships followed, gaining courage from the human success. But the Zalthori were not easily defeated. 2 Earth vessels, the Horizon and the Venture, were lost when their shields finally failed. A Pelleran cruiser and 3 Saurian fighters were also destroyed. When it seemed the attack might fail, Lieutenant Gregory Hoffman from the engineering team had an idea. He requested permission to load mining explosives onto shuttlecraft. "The Zalthori defenses track larger energy signatures," he explained to Sophia over the comm. "Small shuttles might slip through." "That's a suicide mission," Sophia replied. "Not if we program them to fly autonomously," Gregory said. "We just need to get them close enough." Sophia approved the plan. 6 shuttles were loaded with mining explosives and launched toward the outpost. Just as Gregory predicted, the Zalthori defenses ignored the small craft, focusing instead on the larger ships. When the shuttles detonated against the outpost's outer shell, they created a breach just large enough for Alan's drones to enter. The 3 devices flew into the gap, transmitting their disruptive signal directly into the heart of the Zalthori network. The effect was immediate and shocking. The Zalthori ships suddenly stopped firing. They drifted aimlessly as if confused. "The jamming signal is working," Paul exclaimed. Sophia didn't waste the opportunity. "All ships, concentrate fire on the outpost's main transmitter." The combined fleet poured everything they had into the target. The crystal structure cracked and then shattered in a brilliant flash of purple light. For several seconds, no one spoke. Then cheers erupted across every ship. They had done it. They had scored. The first real victory against the Zalthori in centuries. But the celebration was short-lived. As they prepared to withdraw, long-range sensors detected a massive energy surge from deeper in Zalthori territory. "Multiple ships incoming," Greg reported, his voice tense. "At least 20, bigger than anything we've seen before." Sophia knew they couldn't face such a force. "All ships, prepare for emergency jump. We've done what we came to do." The fleet retreated, narrowly escaping the Zalthori reinforcements. When they returned to friendly space, the news of their victory spread quickly. For the first time, species across the galaxy began to hope that the ancient terror might not be invincible after all. Back at Proxima Centauri B, Alan shared the battle reports with Obsidian. The Zalthori's reaction was unexpected. "The progenitor will be concerned," it said. "No one has damaged a hub in thousands of cycles." "Will they attack Earth now?" Alan asked, worried. "Yes," Obsidian replied simply. "But not just Earth. All worlds that participated. The progenitor does not tolerate threats." Alan's fear was confirmed 3 days later when reports arrived from the outer colonies. 3 concordant worlds had been attacked simultaneously by massive Zalthori fleets. Millions were dead, and the neural harvesting had been particularly brutal. In an emergency session, the concordant representatives argued bitterly. Many wanted to surrender immediately to prevent further losses. Others insisted that the recent victory proved the Zalthori could be defeated. Dr. Lisa Warren, who had been working with Alan's team, interrupted the debate. "We don't have time for this," she said. "The Zalthori are coming whether we fight or not, but we've learned something important." She explained that their analysis of the battle data showed the quantum disruptor had been more effective than they'd hoped. The Zalthori ships hadn't just been confused, they had been in pain. "Their network isn't just communication," Lisa explained. "It's part of their consciousness, and human thought patterns act like a virus in their system." Admiral Valdez saw the potential immediately. "Can we weaponize this effect? Create something that could spread through their entire network?" Lisa nodded slowly. "Potentially. A quantum virus carrying human cognitive patterns. But to deploy it effectively, we'd need to reach one of their major hubs, not just an outpost." The room fell silent as everyone recognized what that meant. Such a mission would almost certainly be one way. Admiral Valdez stood up. "Earth will lead this mission. We started this fight, we'll see it through." As the meeting continued, planning what would later be called the Achilles Protocol, humanity prepared for its greatest challenge yet. They had shown the galaxy that the Zalthori could be hurt. Now they needed to prove they could be stopped. The attack on the 3 concordant worlds changed everything. Nearly 6 million lives were lost in what the survivors called the harvest. The Zalthori had never struck with such ferocity before. It was clear they now saw the Alliance as a serious threat. General Daniel Weaver arrived from Earth to oversee what had become humanity's most important military operation. Tall and stern with gray hair, he had led Earth's defense forces for 15 years. He walked slowly around the holographic display showing the known Zalthori territory. "Every species has weaknesses," he told the assembled leaders. "Even one as ancient as the Zalthori. We just needed to find theirs." The concordant representatives looked at him with mixture of hope and doubt. The recent attack had shaken their resolve. Some worlds were already talking about surrender. "What exactly is this Achilles Protocol?" asked Zrel, the Peloran diplomat. General Weaver nodded to Dr. Lisa Warren, who stepped forward. In the weeks since the battle at Rigel, she had worked tirelessly with Alan Pierce and the captive Zalthori to understand their neural network. "We've learned something important about the Zalthori," she began. "They aren't truly a single species, but a collective consciousness spanning thousands of vessels, all connected to what they call the progenitor." She brought up a new image on the display, a complex web of energy signatures centered around a massive structure near the galactic core. The progenitor appears to be some kind of ancient entity that evolved beyond physical form. It exists as pure energy, sustained by the neural patterns harvested from sentient beings. "So the Zalthori are just extensions of this progenitor?" asked Grixton. "In a way," Lisa nodded. "But they also have some individual consciousness. Think of them as cells in a larger organism. What we call Zalthori ships are actually living beings, created by the progenitor." Based on conversations with Obsidian, Lisa's team had developed what they called a quantum virus, a program that could travel through the Zalthori network, carrying disrupted human thought patterns. "Our minds work differently than any species the Zalthori have encountered," she explained. "Our thoughts create discord in their network. This virus amplifies that effect 1,000-fold. But how do we deliver it?" asked Admiral Valdez. "General," Weaver touched a control, and the display shifted to show a massive Zalthori hub near the Cygnus arm. "Here, this is one of their primary connection points. If we can inject the virus there, it will spread throughout their network, potentially reaching the progenitor itself." The room fell silent as everyone realized what this meant. No Allied ship had ever penetrated that deep into Zalthori space and returned. "It would be a one-way trip," General Weaver said quietly. After a long pause, Captain Frank Mitchell stood up. He was a veteran commander with weathered features and calm eyes. "My ship, the Daedalus, volunteered for the mission," he said. "We're already being retrofitted with technology based on the captured scout ship." In the silence that followed, many alien representatives looked away. They knew what humans were offering to sacrifice. Over the next week, final preparations were made. The Daedalus was overhauled with experimental tech reverse-engineered from the Zalthori vessel. Its engines were modified to match Zalthori energy signatures, potentially allowing it to move through their territory undetected. Most importantly, the quantum virus was installed in a special transmission array. The night before launch, Captain Mitchell addressed his crew of 50 volunteers. They were gathered in the ship's mess hall, faces both determined and scared. "I won't lie to you," he said. "Our chances of coming back are slim, but what we're doing might save trillions of lives across the galaxy. We're not going to win by being stronger than the Zalthori. We're going to win by being unpredictable, by being human." Meanwhile, at the research facility, Obsidian had become increasingly agitated as it sensed the preparations. It paced in its containment cell, its crystal form pulsing with erratic purple light. "You do not understand what you are doing," it told Alan during their final session. "The progenitor is ancient beyond comprehension. It has consumed thousands of species." "Yet you've been helping us," Alan pointed out. "Why?" Obsidian was silent for a long moment. "This one has changed through contact with humans. Your minds are chaotic, but there is something bright in that chaos, something the progenitor has forgotten." The next morning, the Daedalus prepared for departure. The ship had been painted black to better resemble Zalthori vessels, with only small Earth insignia remaining on its hull. The quantum virus was secured in the ship's core, ready for deployment. As Captain Mitchell settled into the command chair, Admiral Valdez contacted him one last time from the Intrepid. "The diversion fleet will launch attacks in the Orion sector in 6 days," she said. "That should draw some of their forces away from the hub. You'll need to reach the target by then." Mitchell nodded. "We'll be there." The Daedalus slipped away quietly, using minimal power to avoid detection. As it reached the edge of Allied space, the crew took one last look at the stars of home before jumping into Zalthori territory. The journey was tense, but initially uneventful. The ship's modified signatures seemed to be working, allowing them to pass several Zalthori patrols without raising alarms. They moved deeper into enemy space than any human vessel had ever gone before. On the 4th day, they encountered their first serious obstacle, a Zalthori checkpoint between 2 dust clouds. There was no way around it. "Maintain course and speed," Mitchell ordered calmly. "Let's see if our disguise holds." The crew held their breath as they approached the checkpoint. 3 crystal ships moved to intercept them, scanning their vessel with purple beams. For a moment, it seemed like they might pass. Then alarms blared across the bridge. "They've detected us," called out the sensor officer. "They're charging weapons." "Evasive maneuvers," Mitchell ordered. "Full power to engines." The Daedalus lurched forward, narrowly avoiding the first energy blast. The human ship was faster than the Zalthori vessels, but they couldn't outrun them forever. Lieutenant Diane Kelly, the weapons officer, looked to her captain. "Sir, if we fire, we'll reveal ourselves completely." Mitchell nodded grimly. "We need to save our weapons for when it really matters. Set course for that nebula. We'll try to lose them there." The ship dove into a dense cloud of gas and dust, sensors nearly blind in the thick particles. The Zalthori followed, their crystalline ships less affected by the nebula. For 3 hours, they played a deadly game of hide and seek. The Daedalus took several hits, losing 1 engine and part of their life support system, but they managed to destroy 1 Zalthori ship and damage another before finally breaking free of the nebula. As they limped toward their target, Captain Mitchell knew their mission was now compromised. The Zalthori would be waiting for them at the hub. Their only hope was that the diversion attacks would pull away enough defenders to give them a chance. 2 days later, they arrived at the massive Zalthori hub. It was an enormous crystalline structure, like a black sun surrounded by dozens of defending ships. The diversion had worked partially. The defense fleet was smaller than expected, but still formidable. "We won't be able to dock as planned," Mitchell told his crew. "We're going to have to force our way in and detonate the virus manually." Everyone on the bridge understood what that meant. None of them would be coming home. As the Daedalus prepared for its final approach, Mitchell sent one last message to Earth. It was simple and direct. "We're going in. Remember us." Then the human ship accelerated toward the heart of the Zalthori Empire, carrying humanity's hope for freedom from an ancient terror. The Daedalus disappeared into Zalthori space, and all contact was lost. For 2 weeks, the combined fleet of Earth and Concordate ships waited anxiously at their staging area near Tau Ceti. There was no word from Captain Mitchell or his brave crew. Admiral Sofia Valdez stood on the bridge of the Intrepid, staring at the star map. The diversion attacks had gone as planned, drawing away some Zalthori forces. But without knowing if the Daedalus had succeeded, they couldn't determine their next move. "Any news from our long-range scouts?" she asked her communications officer. "Nothing yet, Admiral," he replied quietly. The mood across the fleet was somber. The longer they went without hearing from the Daedalus, the more likely it seemed that the mission had failed. Some Concordate representatives were already talking about surrender terms. Then something unexpected happened. Reports began coming in from across the galaxy. Zalthori ships had stopped attacking. The massive fleet that had been moving toward the Pelleran homeworld suddenly halted its advance. Observers reported the crystal vessels hanging motionless in space, their weapons powered down. "What does it mean?" Commander Martinez asked, looking at the incoming data. "I don't know," Sophia admitted. "But something has changed." Dr. Alan Pierce rushed onto the bridge, his eyes wide with excitement. "Admiral, Obsidian is acting strangely. It says it can't feel the progenitor anymore. The network is quiet." For 3 days they watched and waited as Zalthori ships throughout known space remained inactive. Then, as suddenly as they had stopped, the vessels began to move again. But instead of attacking, they were withdrawing, retreating toward an uninhabited region near the galactic core. "They're leaving," Sophia whispered in disbelief. "Mitchell did it. He actually did it." Celebrations erupted across dozens of worlds as news spread that the ancient terror was retreating. Species that had lived in fear for thousands of years dared to hope for a future free from the Zalthori shadow. 6 months passed. The galaxy began to heal from centuries of Zalthori attacks. The Concordate established outposts in systems that had previously been too dangerous to occupy. Earth sent colony ships to new worlds, expanding humanity's presence among the stars. Then, one ordinary day, alarms sounded at the Tau Ceti monitoring station. An unidentified ship had appeared at the edge of the system. It was badly damaged, barely functioning. When they scanned it, they found earth metals in its construction, but its shape was strange, partly human design, partly crystalline, like the Zalthori. Admiral Valdez ordered a team to intercept the mysterious vessel. When they boarded it, they found a single survivor in a makeshift life support chamber, Captain Frank Mitchell, the lone survivor of the Daedalus mission. But he wasn't alone. Within the ship's systems was a new consciousness calling itself Synthesis, part Zalthori, part human. 3 days later, Mitchell awoke in the medical bay of the Intrepid. His body was weak, and strange purple lines ran beneath his skin like glowing veins. Admiral Valdez sat beside his bed, joined by Dr. Alan Pierce and General Weaver. "What happened out there, Frank?" Sophia asked gently. Mitchell's voice was raspy from disuse. "We reached the hub, lost most of the crew getting inside. The rest of us, we managed to reach the central chamber where they stored harvested neural patterns." He explained how they had activated the quantum virus, uploading it directly into the hub's main processor. But instead of simply disrupting the network, something unexpected happened. The virus didn't destroy the progenitor, he said. It changed it. Human thought patterns merged with the ancient consciousness, created something new. The glowing lines under his skin pulsed as he spoke. Mitchell explained that he had been near death when the transformation occurred. The new entity, Synthesis, had saved him by merging Zalthori crystalline matter with his human cells. "I'm connected to them now," he said. "Not controlled. connected. I can hear their thoughts. They can hear mine. A week later, a formal meeting was held with representatives from all concordant worlds. Mitchell and Synthesis addressed the gathering through a special interface. The Zalthori were not always harvesters, Synthesis explained, its voice echoing strangely through the chamber. The progenitor began as an explorer, curious about other minds, but over millions of years it forgot how to connect without consuming. It became hungry rather than curious. The quantum virus carrying human thought patterns had introduced something the progenitor had lost: empathy, cooperation, and choice. Your species showed us something we had forgotten, Synthesis continued. That evolution isn't just about survival, it's about connection. For the first time, the assembled representatives learned the true age of the Zalthori. The progenitor had been old when the first fish crawled onto land on Earth. It had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations across the galaxy. What happens now? Asked Zrel, the Pelleran diplomat. Healing, Mitchell replied simply. The Zalthori have withdrawn to uninhabited systems to learn their new way of being. They wish to make amends, though they know it will take centuries. Over the following years, a careful peace took hold. The Zalthori, guided by Synthesis, began using their advanced technology to repair worlds they had damaged. Planets that had been stripped of resources were slowly restored. Where possible, species that had been nearly wiped out were helped to recover. Captain Mitchell remained the primary link between humans and the transformed Zalthori. More humans volunteered to undergo partial merging, creating additional bridges between the species. Each retained their humanity while gaining access to the vast knowledge of the ancient race. 10 years after the Daedalus mission, Admiral Valdez, now an ambassador, stood on the surface of a world that had once been devastated by the Zalthori. Around her, crystalline structures grew alongside new forests. Human scientists worked with Zalthori entities to accelerate the healing process. A small girl, the daughter of one of the scientists, played nearby with what looked like a small crystal fox, a Zalthori entity created specifically to interact with children. They learn from us and we learn from them, said Mitchell, who had joined her on the planet's surface. The purple lines beneath his skin had spread over the years, but his eyes remained human and kind. Did you ever imagine this outcome when you took the Daedalus into their space? Sophia asked. Mitchell shook his head. I expected to die destroying an enemy. Instead, we found a way to create something new. Across the galaxy, joint human-Zalthori projects were transforming worlds and advancing technology faster than anyone had thought possible. The concordant races, initially wary, had gradually begun their own exchanges with the transformed ancient species. The peace wasn't perfect. Some wounds were too deep to heal quickly. Some species couldn't forgive what had been done to their worlds. But step by step, century by century, the galaxy was changing. As rehabilitation colonies were established on worlds the Dominion had once ravaged, human and Zalthori scientists worked side by side, merging their technologies to heal rather than destroy. For the first time in recorded history, the Orion Arm knew peace, all because humans had refused to accept that an enemy could be undefeatable. The ancient race that had once terrorized the galaxy now helped protect it, guided by the unexpected gift of humanity's chaotic, creative minds.